2, 1.
All right. Hi, everybody. We'll just do a little introduction before the run. I'm smashysr, and commentating for me and probably saying most of everything will be rusSR here.
Hey there. You might recognize me from my Ori 2 run yesterday. Going to be returning for comms for this one.
All right. Well, without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. We'll explain some stuff as we go. So, all right. Starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good luck. Okay, so Ori and the Blind Forest. This is the first Ori game. It is like a Metroidvania platformer type game. Metroidvania meaning we explore around and find new abilities in order to increase the amount of the world we have access to. We are doing the category Seinless, Bashless, Stompless, and those are 3 of those abilities that we get that allow us to access areas, and they're 3 of the most critical abilities. So this is sort of like a very restricted challenge category that requires a lot of advanced techniques and glitches just to complete it at all, because we are not picking up some of the most important abilities in the game. So we, as you can see here, we just start off with our basic jump ability, and we will slowly be gaining more abilities as we move through the world. That little blue thing we picked up there was some energy. You can't see it right now because we have the UI turned off in order to skip all dialogue. I'll get back to that in a second, but we actually are right now, just like above us right there is where you would pick up Sign normally. It's the very first thing you get, and it's like your basic attack in the game. We're bypassing that entirely because of the rules of the category, but that's going to have some interesting effects. Notably in this early area, you're supposed to use your Sign little laser attacks that it gives you in order to break a lot of these thorny plants that are in your way. And so right away we have to run into some problems here where we have to start taking a bunch of damage boosts. Like right there you can see you get some invincibility frames when you take a hit there. So with really good timing she was able to jump into those spikes and then bounce off of that bounce pad there. What you just saw there was a level up. When you gain enough of these little orange experience orbs, you will level up and it will send out like a big energy wave that does damage around you. And that's actually our only way to do damage right now, so we're going to be very carefully routing our experience. What she's doing right now is actually picking up a keystone. It's not loaded into the game because it doesn't actually appear until you've picked up that sign ability, which we did skip. But when you reload the game from the menu, it actually is there for 1 frame. So by saving the game right on top of where the key is, reloading back in, as she's doing right now, she can actually pick up that keystone. She actually picked up 2 keystones there that you didn't see. On that second one, she was utilizing a trick called Save Anywhere, where you saw that menu of circles was up there. Those are different things that we can spend points that we get from our level ups on to sort of power up our abilities. By spending those, you actually save your game. So by tricking the game into letting us move during that menu with a little bit of a glitch, she's able to spend those points to save on top of the keystones, and also we're going to be using it later to do things like skip some cutscenes and things like that. We are continuing onwards into our to go get our next ability in the game, which is going to be wall jump. It's just kind of like exactly how it sounds. It gives you the ability to jump up walls, and is going to be very useful for getting around the world. This game is really, really good at the world slowly expands out from the starting area, and as you gain these abilities, you just get the ability to go to areas that you were previously stuck on before. And so something as simple as just being able to jump up these walls will allow us to get back out of this cavern, which we could not have done before. So broadly speaking, our ultimate goal in this game is we need to go and complete 3 dungeons, and one of the rules of this category is those 3 dungeons each have a key that you need to acquire to get into them. And so we have to acquire those 3 keys, and we have to complete those 3 dungeons, and then go on and finish the game. A reason being, if you didn't have to complete those, you could actually literally just glitch right to the end of the game within just a couple of minutes. So it would make the category very uninteresting. So by requiring those and still also having the Seinless, Bashless, Stompless restriction, we have to do a lot of very interesting glitches and techniques to get through the game. You can see here more damage boosting going on. She is taking advantage of some extended invincibility frames you get after you respawn from death. So she put that save down there and jumped into the spikes to die. And as she reloaded from it, she was able to get up through those brambles there. This is a tough little trick here. You just get the 1 jump off of the wall, and so getting around the little corners and stuff like that is actually pretty difficult. It takes a lot of practice to get really fluid at this type of movement here. This is a tough little spot here. You need to manipulate this enemy to not get in your way pretty well, and we want to try avoiding taking too much damage.
Yeah, because I want to show this trick off.
All right, we got through there. She was trying to preserve her health. You can see down, we have our UI on right now. You can see she has 2 of those little green health orbs and 1 blue energy orb. By keeping enough of that energy, we were able to get a damage boost off of that bramble and avoid having to push a rock over to jump up with it, which is a lot slower. So while we are going through here, you'll be noticing we'll be collecting a lot of those little orange experience orbs. The reason is, at the very end of the run, there is a very important trick where to complete the last dungeon that we do, we need to time a level up very, very precisely, because we need that energy wave to go out to destroy a puzzle object. And so she's actually keeping track of the amount of experience she's collecting over the entire run, like start to finish, because we need to level up off an enemy that drops, is it 9 experience?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're routing it so that, like, on a level up that's out of like hundreds of experience to complete, we need to get it to we need to route our experience closely enough that killing an enemy that gives us 9 experience will give us a level up at exactly the right time.
Thankfully, in this category, you don't kill any enemies, so it's a lot easier to stay on track with the experience amount. So
still very, very difficult though. You saw her using that save anywhere trick I described before to spend those little points that upgrade our abilities, and that saved the game after she had walked into a cutscene and then reloaded from the menu. Basically, once you start a cutscene, the game considers the cutscene like completed. It just has to play it out for you. But by saving in a way that we weren't, like in a place we weren't supposed to be able to, and then reloading, the game like considers the cutscene completed. So after we load back in, you just don't have to watch it. It's much, much faster to do it this way. So this is Blackroot Burrows. It's an area that was added in the definitive edition of the game. The sort of gimmick of the area is it's really, really dark in here, and so we're supposed to pick up this little orb that you saw her get and carry it through as like a light source and light these lanterns up until we get to the end. The problem with that in this category is when you put the orb down, it teleports to you, but the problem is it's programmed to teleport to where Sign is, which is that ability that we skipped right at the beginning. And keep that in mind, because that's actually going to come up in a few different mechanics. Things in this game are good.
Oh my
wow,
god.
holy cow, that was so close.
I did not think I was going to make that.
But anyway, like, things are programmed to go to where Sign is, but we don't have Sign, so we need a way to get around that. And the way that that works is when you spend energy to put a save point down, even though we don't have Sign, for the purposes of the game's programming, it kind of considers that to be where Sign is. So we're having to carefully route our energy. We have very limited amounts of it right now. When we need to put the orb down and then get it to come to us later, we have to put a save point down to get the orb to like warp to us. So this is much more difficult than in like a normal category of Ori and the Blind Forest, because of the fact that we don't have Sign here to get the orb to warp back to us without spending energy to do so. Some pretty good cycle manipulation there. These platforms are on like specific set cycles, and by stopping and standing in certain spots, she can manipulate them to line up as well as possible here. So now we're going to get next to this statue and put a save down, and because that save is there, that means that the orb is going to float to us after a little bit of time here. Once it realizes that it's been sitting off on its own for a little while, you see it floats to us, and we place the statue in the cutscene, place the orb in the statue, starting this little cutscene of the light being restored here. And we are going to be grabbing probably the most important ability in this game. Very shortly, we're going to be grabbing Dash. And Dash, as it sounds, is you just press a button and you kind of zoom forward. But it's really important in this speedrun for a couple of reasons. It can be upgraded to let you spend energy to go even faster. It can be upgraded to allow us to dash in the air. And it has some important glitches. Specifically, it's going to allow us to do a clip through walls, which we'll talk about later, and it's going to allow us to do a trick that allows us to get a ton of vertical height, all of which is going to be important here. You're seeing a cool little example of how good this game is at, right after it gives you a skill, it immediately trains you how to use it. So like this little gauntlet you have to go through here, you have limited time to get through that, before that door closes on you. And so, like, you're forced to use Dash to get through here. You have to demonstrate that you know how Dash works in order to do so. Right there, what we were doing was we were standing in this particular spot. So when that boulder caught up to us, it actually pushed her slightly out of bounds, like just under the floor there. And so she was under the floor and moved to a specific spot and put a save point down. So she currently has that save out of bounds right now. coming up here to activate this save pad because we can use those as warp points later. Now she's coming here and reactivating that save point and dying, so it puts her back at the save point but out of bounds. So she's currently under the floor and moving through the out of bounds and falls right into Gumo's hideout, which is an area much later in the game. So we've bypassed a huge amount of traversing that would have taken like quite a while to get around to this area. Instead, we were just able to clip straight through the roof and right next to the next skill that we want to get, which is going to be our double jump. Before we do that, we got a little bit of got to do here. We got to pick up a keystone, and she's taking some intentional damage here because we're going to be using a trick called ghost storing, where she's going to put the keystones in the door, drop a save down, and take an intentional death there, and that's going to completely skip the animation of the door opening, just a little bit faster there. Tiny little optimizations like that are like the difference between a good and a great runner in this game. So here we are requiring double jump, which just like it sounds, gives you the ability to jump a second time in the air. Can be upgraded if you spend a ton of level up points to allow a third jump in the air, but we are not going to be getting to that point in this run, unfortunately. I don't think that really comes up other than like specifically in 100%, just because it takes so many points to get to.
It used to be in this route because we thought we needed it, but we realized we could route it out, so
nice.
Which saves a lot of time.
Yeah, Smashy's been running this category for like quite a while, like pretty much close to since it began, I think.
Yeah.
So one of the oh boy, taking a lot of damage here. It's all right though. We got some health.
We have 5.
Got another little trick coming up here. We're going to be completely bypassing the left side of this area by doing a jump off of a spot on the wall they're not intended to do. Very nice. That was super clean. Obviously, you're not supposed to be able to jump on that spot there, but there's just enough of a flat surface for you to get a wall jump off of that and then up and around if you get it really precisely. And that saves like a pretty considerable amount of traversal over on the left side of this area that you're supposed to do. Now you're going to see some really weird stuff coming up. You're going to see this NPC named Gumo frozen in a lot of weird positions, and stuff is going to look really weird as we climb out of here. There he is, just on the left side there. It looks like he is about to pull a lever. Because we out of bounds into this area, we're actually doing all of this backwards. You're supposed to have gone downwards in this area that we're climbing up and outwards right now. So like all of those would be the start of cutscenes. Like you can see he's like duplicated right here and doing some very odd stuff. So the fact that we're doing this backwards is really breaking the progression of the game a little bit.
I missed that thing. There you go.
So right here what we're doing is there's a cutscene that locks your inputs and forces you onto this bridge and like you fall downwards. But by saving with her save point, walking to the cutscene and then reloading, that actually like cancels that part out and we get to keep our movement and avoid getting launched downwards with the bridge there.
Wait a second, this guy likes to throw me back.
Alright, a little bit dangerous here just because we've taken a little bit of unintended damage here, but we've got one more damage boost and we're through that part. We're just ducking over here to get one of these energy cells to increase the reservoir of energy we're using. Energy is really useful in this route for a couple of reasons. Later on we're going to be spending it to do our upgraded speedier dash, and we also have to spend it every time we want to drop a save point. And those saves are not just for safety. As we've talked about, like they do things like enable cutscene skips for us. They're going to do things like that trick where we needed the orb to come to our save point. It's useful for stuff like that. Also going to be used for another thing with an ability we'll be getting in a few minutes as well. So like all of these energy like shards that or all the energy orbs that we've been getting are absolutely critical for getting through the run. We're also routing just a little bit of extra health, but there is absolutely no margin for error. We are getting the bare minimum amount of health you can get and still complete the route, just because there's some pretty gnarly damage boosting that goes on at the very end of the run.
Yeah, and that's all our cells that we're getting, other than ACs. So.
Yeah, so you'll see her pick up some cells that are like orange, and those are just giving us like the points that you would get from level ups without actually leveling you up. So we'll grab some of those just because we need to spend them for glitches. Coming over here to get this teleport pad because we're going to be needing it later. We're now going to be returning to an area close to the beginning of the game, and we're now going to get a little bit back on like what the progression was supposed to be earlier. Again, using some damage boosts because of the invincibility frames we get after dying.
It's okay, we're fine. Just gotta get through this wall. There we go.
A lot of the movement you're seeing her do is what's called dash gliding. If you dash and then you let your inputs go completely neutral, and then like jump into the air, you get to maintain the momentum that you got off of that dash. And so like you'll see her just kind of like, Ori will just kind of like be in the air in like a neutral pose. That's dash gliding. But if you don't go quite neutral, you can kind of like spin out and not get it. We're setting up something called a ghost door or a key duplication right here. What she did was she went to that door that can have 2 keys put into it, but she only put 1 in. And then she took a death from that Frankie there, with her save being... her save was outside of like that immediate loading zone of the door. Goodness, that Frankie was not being kind. But anyway, so she took a death and her save was outside of the loading zone of this door, and the result of it was, even though she only had 1 key, she put it in the door and it was returned to her after the death, but also like she got a 2nd key out of it because of it being like the door was unloaded, so it essentially duplicated the amount of keys we put into the door. So even though we only had 1 key, we actually got a 2nd one out of it and were able to get through that door anyway. We'll be using that later on a door that's a lot more like a much faster, more efficient way to duplicate keys. You can do it 3 at a time with much faster deaths than that. So we're only doing it here just because it's required to get through this area. We've got a little bit of just like basic traversal here for a moment, so if you've got any donations, this would be a good time to read them.
Can I die, please?
I actually do have a couple donations for you.
Perfect.
All right, we got $5 from Covert Muffin. He says, awesome run so far, Smashy. Keep it up. Good luck with the mid and late game sections. Here's to hitting 2,000. And we've got another big one here. We've got $50 from Trojan Dude and Rue. They say, let's go, Smashy and Roos. Much love from Trojan and Rue.
All right, big shout out to the Ori community. They always show up for each other. Like anytime we have marathon appearances from runners, it gets posted in our Discord, and like everybody shows up to hang out. It's a fantastic speedrun community. So if you're liking what you're seeing, highly recommend picking up the game or joining the Discord and learning how to speedrun it. So we are setting up. We've got the save anywhere up, so you can see Ori is moving in the background while we have this up.
Okay.
The reason is we want to be able to spend our points here. And the reason is when you activate this tree, you're going to be locked with, your inputs are going to be locked. But by spending those points and reloading, we actually gain the ability to move during this cutscene. That's very important because there is a door off to our right. It's like a blue rock door. But because during that cutscene, it's actually not loaded in. So we were able to get through it. The way that you break those doors is you use the ability we just got, which is called Charge Flame. And it allows you to charge up Sign and like spend energy to make a big explosion. And it can break these blue doors. And well, obviously we don't have Sign because this is Seinless, Bashless, Stompless. Sign is where your save point is. So we had one set up over here, and we didn't want to have to move it. So because we have our save point here, she's actually able to still use the Charge Flame ability from the location that that save is at and break this blue door. But we had to use that glitch to get through the previous blue door just over by the door, the tree where we got Charge Flame there. You're now coming into sort of like the main hub of the late game, Valley of the Wind. But we're doing a glitch here to actually get into it. This is called Terra Clipping, where she is getting right next to a wall and dashing at it and saving at the same time, and then leaving the load zone and dying. So what's happening is she loads back in from her save and is dashing at the wall, but it takes just a very small fraction of time for the wall to load in, and we're moving fast enough towards it that we actually get out of bounds through the wall before it has time to load in. And real quick, we don't have a whole lot of time to talk about that. We're now going to be doing another trick called rocket jumping, which we're going to use our powered up, leveled up dash to dash at an enemy above us and then jump at a specific time to cancel out our deceleration.
I'm not gonna make it.
Oh no.
It's okay.
So we cancel out our deceleration, and the end result is we just get flung like miles straight upwards like that. It's really, that's some of my favorite speed tech in this game for sure. She unfortunately did not quite make it up high enough to get to this platform here, so she had to go get some energy on that save pad and reset it back up. Now, another difficult trick, that is the antagonist of the game, Kuro, right there. She has some fragile rocks right above her right there. We need to break those, and normally you would do it with the skill Bash, but we don't have Bash. So what we have to do instead is we have to use this spider's little fireballs to redirect it at those rocks there. Problem is there is a wall in the way. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to use the charge flame from the save point there, redirect the spider shot towards the rocks, and then immediately start running away. And if we get far enough away that the wall unloads because we're in a new area, the fireball can still go through it and get to the rocks. And if you set this up right, you should see the rocks breaking. Yes, very nice. That is an incredibly hard trick. Like, it's a hard trick to do when you have Bash and can precisely redirect the shot by doing it. I guess, so Bash lets you like grab onto things and fling them in one direction and yourself in the other. We're not going to be seeing it in this run, but it's much easier to do with that. We're instead having to redirect it by precisely timing the charge flame shot. But very, very nicely done. We are rewarded with the feather ability, which allows you to just hold a button and glide. You'll fall much, much slower, which we're going to get to see a good little bit of, and when we do some aerial momentum. But real quick here, we got another rocket jump up here, just so we can go get over to the save well here.
Because we can't get back up any other way.
Yep.
So.
The only other way up here is with Bash off of that little lantern right there. Here you can see the glide ability that we just got. But we're going to be going into my personal favorite area of this game, Misty Woods. Misty Woods is kind of like the Lost Woods from Zelda. It has terrain that moves around as you progress through it. Like, we're going to kind of go in one direction, and then we'll pick up a keystone, and then go back where we came, and the terrain will have changed. But unfortunately, we're not going to be getting to see a lot of the later areas of it, because we're just coming in here for one very specific reason. We don't actually... Uh-oh.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. I don't know if I can do all this now. No, I actually have to die.
Okay.
I've used an energy. It's okay.
It's alright, we're not too far back. Unfortunately, with dash and stuff like that, our movement is really fast right now. But anyway, to get back to the point I was making, we're not actually coming in here for the ability that you find in here. We don't need it. What we're coming in here for is, if you zoomed out the entire game's map, Misty Woods is directly above the second dungeon in the game. And we need to get in there, but you have to like completely do this entire area of the game to get the key into it. And so rather than do that and then go to the second dungeon, what we're going to be doing is we're going to get to a certain part of Misty Woods here, and then we're going to out of bounds into the second dungeon and complete it. And then the end effect of that is actually, because of the way Misty Woods works, where the terrain changes, the parts of Misty Woods that we're not in right now are not loaded. So we're going to be able to take advantage of the fact that Misty Woods is going to be like partially unloaded and broken to come back here and complete this area later as well, which I'll describe as we come to it. But right now we are setting up the Terra Clip to get out of bounds from Misty Woods so that we can fall into the second dungeon, which is Forlorn Ruins. So we're just getting up against the wall, dashing towards it while spending a point. And now she's going to dash back off to the left.
I actually don't know if that worked. Oh, gosh.
I guess we'll find out in a second.
I'm gonna have to back up a save. Nope, never mind. Just kidding.
Alright, very nice. So she moved out of the load zone, took a death in those spikes, and then dashed through the wall before it had a chance to load in. She's now falling through like the out of bounds void between Misty Woods and Forlorn Ruins, and then falling into the very final room of the second dungeon. So we've completely bypassed the entirety of the second dungeon as well as the second half of Misty Woods. Keeping the save anywhere up here because we're at an escape sequence where you activate this, like, you activate this room, and then you have to do this extended sequence where you like float through these icy caverns and dodge all these spikes and stuff. It's very cool, very awesome, wonderful music, wonderful spectacle, but we are not going to be doing absolutely any of it because it's very slow. Instead, once it gets far enough into the cutscene that we see outside of the room, she just spends the point and reloads the game, and it takes us outside of the room. So in terms of the game considers us having completed the escape because we activated it. It's kind of like cutscenes where once you activate the escape, it just goes ahead and gives you credit for completing it because, like, as far as the developers are concerned, once you're in there, you're locked in. Obviously, you're not going to be able to do anything else until you've completed it, but we have bamboozled the developers here and just gotten outside of it without having to actually complete it. So we still got credit for completing the second dungeon. What we were doing there is we were duplicating some keys, and we're now doing a really, really, really awesome trick where we're going to be glitching this teleporter so that we can move during it, and we're using the gravity swap mechanic of this dungeon to get sideways gravity, and we are now falling sideways back into Misty Woods. It's going to look a little bit different this time. It's completely unloaded because we glitched out of Misty Woods, and what we're doing is we're falling just left, 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 and this is the end of Misty Woods. Literally the very final part of Misty Woods right here. And because we have glitched all the way to the end of it, we get this second orb here, which we need to bring a little bit off to the right to get the key to the dungeon, which actually is the dungeon we just completed. Obviously, this category is incredibly broken because we have completed the second dungeon before the first or the third, and we are now getting the key into the dungeon that we just completed, but after having already completed it. It's very confusing.
Yeah, I didn't activate that anything.
But anyway, we just have a short little cutscene here where this altar will like rise up and give us the key to the dungeon that we just finished.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually have time to call attention to it at the time, but way back in Gumo's hideout, when we had all those like glitched backwards cutscenes, we collected the key to the first dungeon, the Ginseo tree. So far we have collected the key to the first dungeon and the key to the second dungeon and completed the second dungeon. We still need the key to the third dungeon, we need to complete the third dungeon, and we need to complete the first dungeon. So the next order of business is we're going to go get the key to the third dungeon because it is just a little bit up here. Doing another little rocket jump just to speed up our movement here. So we are just going to come up into Sorrow Pass. This is a really, really difficult area. A lot of movement that relies on floating through these corridors with your feather using these like upwards wind drafts. We're going to be doing a really cool trick here where we rocket jump at a super precise time to bait that frog into shooting a shot upwards after us and breaking that ceiling for us, completely bypassing like the entirety of the left-hand side of this.
My health is scary right now.
Boy. All of these spikes are completely lethal, by the way, to her right now, because she is not quite at full health, so she has to be super careful not to take any damage there. Intentional death just to get through that door a little bit faster. So baiting this frog shot to break this floor here, because we do not have Stomp, we actually have no way to break that right now. Very nice.
You hit the very edge of it.
Damage, which we'll be using for a little bit of fighting later, but it also can break like breakable floors and ceilings if we're able to hit them with it. We're going to be taking advantage of that with a cool trick called the Terra Break right here, where she's going to get up against this breakable roof that's too high to charge jump, and then she's going to save by spending a point right next to it, and then take a death in spikes with that charge jump. And when it reloads, the effect of her charge jump is carried over into the new life, basically. And because she saved right up against that ceiling, it applies that effect to the ceiling and breaks it and allows us to float up to the very top of this area. Which, it's very pretty, but unfortunately we can't see it very well because of the save anywhere. But, so this is where we get the key to the third dungeon, so we're just waiting for a little bit of cutscene to play out, and then once we actually collect it, we will spend a point on the menu here and reload, and we'll not have to watch the rest of the cutscene, which is like 2 minutes long, so we're really, really grateful we don't have to watch this one.
Yeah, it was sad too. Well, sort of sad.
Yeah, the Ori games are like incredibly emotional and sad and moving, so we're very glad we don't have to watch those cutscenes every time, because we wouldn't we'd have to have water bottles nearby to replace our tears after every run. Alright, so just to fall straight down this central corridor of Sorrow Pass again, and then so we now have the key to the final dungeon, which we will complete as we're going to finish the end of the game, because that is where like the final part of the game is. So our next order of business is we need to go and complete the first dungeon, the Ginseo tree. And so this teleporter that we activated much earlier is actually right underneath it. So it's beneficial for us to have put off the Ginseo tree until the very end for a couple of reasons. The skill that's found in here is Bash, which in a normal speedrun is unbelievably valuable. It's an incredible skill, but we are not allowed to get it in this category. So there's no reason to come in here other than the fact that the rules require us to complete the dungeon. So by delaying it until we have gotten all of these other abilities, we're able to do this dungeon much faster than we would have if we had done it as soon as we had access to it. Because now we have these rocket jumps, we have the charge jumps, we have double jump, all that sort of stuff makes us much, much faster at going through here. So you'll recall, like right at the beginning, I was mentioning that we have been routing our experience very carefully this entire time. This is the area that we needed that for. Because when we get to the very top, there's going to be a puzzle where like there's like a corrupted heart of the tree in the center. Ooh. So she's trying to redirect this shot at a really precise time with her charge dash here to get it to hit that little wooden redirector thing there. Very nice. Gets her through there. Don't blink or you might miss it, but there is actually a mini boss here. See ya, nerd. With the charge jump and the charge dash ability, we're able to just do so much damage to it that it instantly destroys it in one cycle. Very nice. So anyways, I was saying, up at the very top of this dungeon, there's a puzzle on the left and the right of the like corrupted heart of the tree, and they are there's like a little bramble behind a door on the left and the right hand side. And with our current set of abilities, we actually have no way to open the right hand side. That was the bash tree, by the way, that we just missed. Wave goodbye to bash. Absolutely do not need it in this run. So anyway, we have no way to actually get in the right hand side puzzle room. So what we need to do is we need to do the left side puzzle room and level up off of a little frog enemy. And with that 9 experience, we will level up and then get close enough to the center that that big like wave of energy that our level up gives us will go out and break the right hand side as well as the left hand side. Another little mini boss here waiting just a second so that charge jump will also redirect its own shot into it. Very, very cool. So this is that corrupted heart in the middle. So we have this left side puzzle room. We're going to be setting up the enemies here and getting a little bit more experience. We're going to get this right here. Now we should be close enough that killing this frog levels us up. We just run over here, magnet the energy to us, and the wave breaks both sides. Very nice. Literally frame perfect, energy perfect. Good job. All right, so this is definitely one of the most iconic parts of this game. When we activate this, the tree is going to start filling up with water that's going to chase up behind us. And it's a really, really cool section, very challenging casually. I think I died like 75 times to this when I did my first playthrough. But it's actually much harder in this category because this is the dungeon where you get bash. This entire escape is like based around you having to use bash to get through it. But we don't have that, so we're going to have to use our charge dashes, our rocket jumps, and our damage boosts to get through here, but it makes it quite a bit harder. You'll notice the water rubber bands to you really hard, so even though we were able to rocket jump up there, it like immediately caught up to us. Also, we need all of our health. Oh no. No health drop.
This one might. If it doesn't, then we'll it.
That's unfortunate. Yeah, so we need as I was saying, we need all of our health for damage boosts right at the end because there's just like no floor to stand on. We just have to take 2 hits in spikes, and they each do 2 health. We have 5 total life. So unfortunately, we took a little bit of a dunk from that Frankie there. If we'd gotten very lucky, one of those enemies we killed might have dropped a little bit of health for us, but we didn't quite get lucky, so we're gonna have to redo it. But honestly, getting this second try, not that big of a deal. It's a very challenging escape in this category, so it's not unheard of. Alright, first damage boost coming up here. 1 done successfully, and second. Very nice. That second one especially is so tough. Like it's surprisingly finicky to get a charge jump out of spikes because like if you start charging it before you hit the spikes, it cancels out your timing. And so like it's really easy to think you've held up for long enough, and then it turns out you didn't, and you actually just don't charge jump, and you just die in the spikes. It's very, very it's finicky, even for experienced runners. All right, so we have one last little bit of a trick here before we can go on to the end game. The game puts you into this area called the swamp, but to get out of here, you're supposed to use the stomp ability that you get here. But sound like a broken record, we don't have that ability because you can't get it in this category. So we have to set up another Terra Clip to get out of here by set up her save, dies outside of the loading zone, and just zips right on through the wall there. And we are now out and can return to one of our teleport pads and go on to the end of the game. While we're doing this, any other donations you want to read out or anything? All right, so when we are heading over to this teleport pad here, we're setting up a really cool trick called Warp Displacement, where we're going to be doing something similar to that gravity shenanigan trick. We're glitching to be able to move during the teleport animation, but she's going to get on this log of wood, and she's going to get it rocking back and forth so that she gets a weird angle on it, and the teleport will misfire and actually send her, instead of to the teleporter, that angle we skewed ourselves at actually teleports her right outside the door of the final dungeon. That's just cut out like a huge amount of traversal that is very problematic for us to do with our current skill set. Alright, so you might be looking at the estimate and our current time and being a little worried because this dungeon is very long. There's 8 rooms that you do, and you have to do all these puzzles in them, but instead we're just going to do this little glitch that we're trying to set up right now. This is called Door Warp, and what she's doing, if she gets it right now, there we go. Alright, so that trick is frame perfect. What you have to do is you have to hit up on the exact frame that you enter the door after reloading the game, and it sort of like displaces your position down and left of where you're supposed to be, and conveniently for us, that actually puts us at the complete end of the dungeon, completely bypassing the need to do any of those puzzle rooms. So we're now in the final escape. This is the last world event we need to do, and also the way you complete the game. Really, really challenging though. We only have 5 health, and there is a 4-point damage boost we have to do midway through, so we cannot take any damage. We also need all of our energy, so we have no room for taking anything extra. Nice knowledge of knowing where there was a spot on the spike that doesn't actually damage you. This is the damage boost here. Oh no! Okay, so we're trying to use our charge dashes to break through that wall there, but unfortunately, yep, can't waste a single one there.
Oh god.
Ooh, goodness gracious.
Hit that before though.
Alright, friendly spikes again. And let's give this one a second shot here. This is where the damage boost is. Really spooky. Oh, that was a little bit too early to have taken that hit and get knocked back. I literally cannot stress to you how difficult this damage boost is, because the hurt box of the fire is so much larger than like the visuals of them are. So you have to know exactly when you're going to get hit and start charging like at exactly the right time. And you have, oh no.
Yeah, you get ramped there.
That's unfortunate.
I'll keep this up so you can see it.
For some context, Smashy has 2nd place on the leaderboards, I think, and is like one of the most experienced runners of this category, and this escape is still challenging every single time. Like, this final escape in Seinless, Bashless, Stompless is one of the hardest ways you can do this escape. Alright, that one was good. We got far enough to the side there and got out without taking a second hit. We are not out of the woods yet, though. We're going to have to swim through this water, and these fish will come after us and can very easily kill you. With you get some precise movement here to get around them. Very nice. And now we need to avoid spawning Kuro by just sneaking around the corner of that rock there, so she's not going to swoop in and kill us. One more little bit we've got to do here. We've got to get up onto this wall. Very nice. Okay, so the run is essentially over. We just have like about a minute or so of cutscene we have to watch, and there's a little bit of movement at the end. So we don't call time until the last input is actually done. But there's nothing left that's actually like difficult to do at this point. All she's got to do is just hold right through this section. So the final time is going to come in somewhere around like a 37. So, well done. Seriously, like, let's not understate how difficult this category is. It's like a who's who of like difficult glitches, exploits, techniques and stuff that are like not used in a lot of other categories, and a serious monster of a final escape. So very well done to pull that off in a marathon by Smashy. Any shout outs you want to give?
Of course. Obviously to you. He's actually the one that got me into Ori and speedrunning, because I found him on Twitch running Ori BDE. So, and thank you for commentating once again.
You're very welcome.
And of course, shout out to Ori community. I probably wouldn't have continued to run this game if it weren't for everybody there. So, everybody's awesome.
And if you liked what you saw, these, like both Ori 1 and 2 are wonderful casually and great speed games. So
This time.
Yep, time right there. Sorry, I forgot. I meant to. Should have been saying that. But anyway, great games. Definitely buy them. Enjoy them. They're wonderful. And if you like them enough,